standing on Tower Green, the village green to the Tower of London. But unlike most village greens, this one is rather special. For here we have our very own execution site. Now that small paved area there is not to be confused with the public scaffold site on Tower Hill. Here, only 6 people were executed. 3 of them were Queens of England. But before I tell you about them, let me describe the buildings that surround us. Down there to your left, beyond those trees, you'll find the entranceway to the Bloody Tower, where many famous names were incarcerated behind those very walls, some of them never to leave alive. Moving further to your right, you see that large black and white house there, the Queen's House, a perfectly preserved Tudor residence that is still the home of the resident governor and his family. Now, over the passage of time, some very important prisoners have been held within those walls. Queen Catherine Howard, 5th wife to King Henry VIII, she was held there before her execution on Tower Green. Now, another character to be held up there on the top floor was William Penn for his offensive writings. Even though, whilst in prison, he still managed to write that controversial pamphlet, No Cross, No Crown. Now, he was only released on condition that he left the country. And so he crossed to the other side of the Atlantic, one of our smaller colonies, and became the founder of the famous Quaker colony in Pennsylvania, named in honour of his father. Now, the very last prisoner to be held at the Tower of London was Rudolf Hess, Deputy Führer in Hitler's Nazi Germany. He was held up there on the top floor in May 1941 for 4 days. He was then moved to the countryside for his own safety for the remainder of the war. Now, famously, he was tried at the Nuremberg trials and sentenced to life imprisonment in Spandau prison. Now, those houses that you see either side of the Queen's House, those with the light blue doors, are now home to some of my Yeoman Water colleagues and their families. To your front, ladies and gentlemen, is the Beauchamp Tower. We're still building it. In there is a display all about prisoners, but be sure to use the interior staircase to go and visit the State Prison Room on the 1st floor. In there, many notable inscriptions are carved into the stonework. Some of them are over 450 years old. Medieval graffiti. Yeah. Moving further to your right, you see the private homes of our resident doctor. And of course, at night times, we're locked in here with our families, for we live within the walls of the Tower of London. So if he can't help us out, next door to him is the resident chaplain's house. Now, this is the beautiful Chapel Royal St. Peter ad Vincula, where we shall be visiting shortly to finish the tour. Now, behind you, ladies and gentlemen, is the Waterloo Block. It stands on the site of what was once the Grand Storehouse, but that was burnt down by fire in 1841. And as a result of that, this building was erected in 1845 and was a home to up to 1,000 soldiers stationed here at the garrison. Nowadays, it holds the exquisite crown jewels. An entrance can be found underneath that clock for a set of doors. Ladies, when you go in there, look at those diamonds. They're massive. Then look down at the ring on your finger. Look lovingly into your husband's eyes and slap him. At the far end of the square over there, ladies and gentlemen, is the Museum of the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers, an old infantry regiment that was formed up here at the Tower of London in 1685. Now, just before we go inside the chapel, I must remind you that it is still very much a place of Christian worship. Gentlemen, if you are wearing headdress, could I kindly ask you to remove it, of course, if your religion permits. There is to be no eating, drinking and children, no smoking inside the chapel. There is to be no photography or video recording also inside the chapel. And as you enter, there is a small step, about this high. It is there on the way in. And it is there on the way out too. Please be careful of it. As you go inside the chapel, ladies and gentlemen, use the aisles to fill up from the front, and all please make sure you take a nice good seat. Now, if you'd like to make your way to my distinguished colleague up there, he'll show you the way in.